The journey to bring Stephen King's It to the big screen wasn't exactly a straight line. Back in 2015, Cary Fukunaga was attached to direct the project, and he had ambitious plans. A two-film adaptation that would cover the entire novel. Fukunaga spent a lot of time planning the story arcs, tone, and casting approach, but creative differences with New Line led to his departure. The project briefly hit a kind of limbo, leaving fans anxious about whether the story would ever get told. Enter Andy Muschietti, fresh off Mama, who was brought in to helm the film. Unlike Fukunaga, Muschietti embraced the idea of a two-part adaptation from the start. He was very vocal about wanting to preserve the scope of King's story while allowing the first film to stand on its own. This approach meant the first movie could focus on the kids' perspective in 1989, leaving the adult Losers Club arc for the sequel. The two-film strategy allowed for careful pacing, more character development, and crucially, the slow-burn terror of Pennywise to grow organically. The development stage also involved a ton of logistical legwork, figuring out shooting locations that could double as Derry, designing Pennywise's look, and establishing a style that could balance childhood nostalgia with genuinely scary horror. Muschietti's vision leaned heavily into tension building over cheap jump scares, which influenced everything from the cinematography to the sound design. Once Andres Muschietti was firmly in place as director, one of the biggest challenges left was figuring out how to bring Pennywise to life in a way that would be genuinely terrifying. The character had to be both charming and utterly sinister, a figure who could lure children in while horrifying audiences at the same time. Casting Bill Skarsgård proved to be a stroke of genius. His performance was a full-body, almost contortionist portrayal that demanded precision, control, and a willingness to push his physical limits. Skarsgård understood that Pennywise needed to feel alive in a very immediate, tangible way, and that meant his movements had to be subtly unnatural without ever tipping over into caricature. One of the most talked about aspects of his performance was his unnerving eye trick. Skarsgård was able to roll one eye upward while keeping the other focused forward, creating a gaze that felt completely inhuman. What made this even more impressive was that it was done entirely without CGI. On set, this meant that both the cast and crew were confronted with a genuinely disturbing effect in real time, something far more immediate and visceral than a digital enhancement could ever achieve. Pennywise's drool is another example of the film's reliance on practical effects. Instead of digitally adding slime in post-production, Skarsgård and the team worked with special gels and carefully choreographed movements to get the dripping, wet look perfectly timed. The drool wasn't constant or over the top. It appeared exactly where it needed to be, catching the light in a way that made Pennywise feel eerily alive. These small, painstakingly executed touches helped elevate the clown beyond a simple costume and makeup job. They made him an unpredictable, menacing presence in the room, fully integrated into the physical world of the set, rather than existing as a post-production creation. The most delicate moments were those involving the child actors. Muschietti understood that the kids' reactions had to be authentic. The fear they expressed needed to feel real on screen. To achieve this, the production staged a first reveal of Pennywise using a projector. When the young actors finally saw the clown fully realized, their reactions, like wide-eyed shock, subtle tremors, confused curiosity, and moments of genuine terror, were captured on camera. These reactions were raw, natural responses to a horrifying presence in front of them. Muschietti carefully balanced the need to scare with the responsibility to protect the actors, ensuring the environment was safe while still convincing enough to elicit real fear. This approach created a level of authenticity that resonates throughout the film, making the losers' encounters with Pennywise feel as immersive and chilling as they do on the screen. While Bill Skarsgård brought Pennywise vividly to life through his physical performance, the film's most memorable scares were often the result of a careful blend of practical effects and digital augmentation. One prime example of this is the projector scene. The filmmakers didn't rely solely on CGI to unsettle the audience. Instead, they used a fully functional projector on set to display eerie, moving images directly onto the wall. This gave the actors and the camera a tangible source of fear to react to. In post-production, visual effects were layered on top to enhance the grotesque imagery, creating a seamless marriage of real-world mechanics and computer-generated horror. The result is a scene that feels tactile, yet unnerving in ways that pure CGI often struggles to achieve. Then there's the infamous fridge scene, which pushed the boundaries of what practical effects could accomplish. For this sequence, the team used a real contortionist's head inside the refrigerator, while the body was later augmented digitally to stretch, twist, and move in impossible ways. The combination of physical performance and post-production trickery gave the scene a hyper-realistic horror quality. It looks impossible, yet it's anchored in the physical world, making the audience's fear feel earned. Similarly, Beverly's super terrifying bathroom encounter with Pennywise relied on a mix of practical sets and subtle computer manipulation, and the set was designed to allow for digital enhancements. The sequence has become iconic because it strikes a perfect balance between human performance and surreal horror. All of this was captured under the precise guidance of cinematographer Chung Chung-hoon. His approach to lighting and camera work was essential in selling the illusion. Shadows were strategically placed to obscure or partially reveal Pennywise, maintaining suspense while drawing the viewer's eye exactly where it needed to go. Chung also coordinated complex camera moves like tracking shots, tight interiors, and low-light setups to ensure that the practical effects and digital augmentations integrated flawlessly. By carefully considering angles, lighting, and timing, he helped make the film's blend of real-world and digital horror feel organic, convincing, and genuinely terrifying. Creating Derry on screen required both real-world locations and constructed sets. The filmmakers leaned heavily on Port Hope, Ontario, which doubled as the small-town streets of Derry. Queen Street, Walton Street, and Memorial Park were dressed with period signage, flags, and props to match the 1980s setting. The Capitol Theater, memorial structures, and side streets became visual anchors, and fans can even take a self-guided walking tour today to see where various scenes were shot. The Neibolt House is another standout. Its exterior was constructed on the corner of James Street and Eulalie Avenue in Oshawa, Ontario, designed to feel like a decaying Victorian mansion. Meanwhile, the interiors were filmed at Cranfield House in Toronto, a historic mansion with Gothic architecture that perfectly matched the film's eerie aesthetic. CGI enhancements made the house feel even more menacing on screen. The care and creativity involved here extended beyond the movie itself. Warner Brothers created a real-life pop-up Neibolt house in Los Angeles, which thousands of fans experienced firsthand. Props, set details, and even actors portraying Georgie led visitors through interactive, film-inspired scenes. Finally, we can't talk about It without diving into the sound and music. Pennywise's voice was a collaborative effort between Skarsgård and the sound designers Paul Hackner and Chris Fensky. Skarsgård's vocal range, augmented with Tuvan throat singing techniques, animalistic sounds, and subtle circus cues, was digitally layered to create something wholly unnerving. Using tools like Isotope RX, the team kept the authenticity of the actor's performance while enhancing the horror factor. Benjamin Wallfisch's score provided the emotional and thematic backbone. He focused on two things: Pennywise's terror and the Losers Club's humanity. Pennywise's theme incorporates high strings and nursery rhyme motifs, creating a psychological unease. Meanwhile, Wallfisch layered orchestral motifs to highlight the camaraderie and courage of the kids, making the audience care deeply about them. In interviews, he emphasized blending adventure movie nostalgia with modern horror tension, echoing the film's careful balance of childhood innocence and creeping dread. It became a phenomenon. The film grossed over $700 million worldwide, setting records as the highest-grossing horror movie ever at the time. It proved that Stephen King's stories still have the power to terrify and captivate a new generation of audiences. Part of what made It so successful was how much thought went into every detail. From Cary Fukunaga's early two-film planning to Andy Muschietti's vision of a carefully paced, emotionally rich first chapter, the filmmakers made sure the story had depth as well as scares. All these elements came together to create a movie that didn't just rely on jump scares. It immersed audiences in a world that felt alive and eerie. It was an experience, from the streets of Derry to the terrifying halls of the Neibolt House. Its success showed that great horror is about atmosphere, story, and letting the audience truly feel the fear. Thanks for watching Collider. See you next time.